Welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast, where we provide immersive, essential, and evergreen strategies for the novice cryptocurrency investor. Not financial or investment advice, of course, just purely entertainment in our opinion. How you doing? I'm one half of your host, Broke Boy Crypto. I have here with me as well, as always, Crypto Ewok. We have a lot to get to tonight, just as always. Had some interesting stuff happen today with Jerome Powell from the Fed speaking, which sent the market upward, which we're going to get into, as well as a lot of other topics tonight. An interesting time, of course, in crypto. We're still in the depth of the bear market. Ewok, how you feeling tonight about the markets and just in general?
Well, we're seeing a nice little pump. I think, like you said, I think it has something to do with the announcement that was made that they're going to ease off a little bit. But I still don't think this is quite the bottom yet. So nice little relief rally pump. Can't hurt.
Yeah, I am pretty much with you on that. We're going to get into some of the specifics of what Jerome Powell said today. Again, my name is Broke Boy Crypto. You can find me on YouTube and Twitter at that name. Boy is BOI. YouTube channel is focused on my opinions on investing in cryptocurrency and doing so with a minimalist mindset to help you and have more money, more dry powder on the side to invest. Ewok, you want to let them know where they can find you as well?
Yeah, I'm Crypto Ewok on Twitter and YouTube. My opinion is just of what I'm doing. I'm sharing what I'm passionate about and what I enjoy, and that's why we're here, trying to bring it to you guys and share a little knowledge.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And so let's get right into where the market is. So we have Bitcoin right now at just over 17K, which is actually saying a lot because we haven't traded above this number here for a little while anyway. I mean, it's been really kind of pegged to that mid 16 range, but we are over 17K. But we haven't seen it rally up to that previous bear market low back in June of 17.6, which is kind of an interesting sticking point. But a big pump today. Some of the alts are putting up God candles, one of my favorites, Phantom, over the last couple of days for some other reasons, not just the news today, has been pumping really, really hard. Right now, as I have the top 100 coins just sorted by what's pumped the most on the day, we've got something called Mask Network up 13%. Optimism, one of the newer ones, is up 12%. And then lagging after that, we have Polygon, another one I like a lot, at 6%. Phantom at 6%. And right after that, I'm looking at Hex at about 5.5%. So the market not really discriminating. Everything is pumping today, again, presumably off of some of the dovish terminology that we heard from Jerome Powell today, which we'll get into. But Ewok, you just alluded to it there. We always talk about the market first and foremost. I didn't mention where ETH is, but it obviously has driven up hardcore today. It is almost at 1,300 again. So quite the move for ETH too. But you just said, Ewok, you don't think that we still have seen the lows, even though November was a bloodbath of a month. We're going to get into some of the specifics that Powell talked about, but tell us why you think that we're still going to see new lows and about the time frame for when the bear market could end that you mentioned to me before the show and we talked about last week too.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen our standard 85% Bitcoin pullback, 90% ETH. We still have to fulfill a lot of those empty spaces in the futures markets. There's area to be filled. And as we discussed, I believe it was the time before the Bitcoin halving to the bottom of the market averaged out to be about 423 days, I think,
right.
Which puts us in mid-January. So we still have a little ways to go. That could play out well with everything happening in the regular markets as well, and get us a nice little bottom for the new year, and off we kind of go. I still think it'll chop around once we hit that bottom. I think it'll still chop around a little bit at those levels before it decides to creep its way on up like it normally does. But yeah, I think we're getting there. It's almost, people think they've seen a lot of FUD and just capitulation, but I really don't think this has been max pain. Hasn't been hit yet. So
Yeah, some people that haven't experienced a bear market before, which could be a lot of these market participants, might think that you are crazy because November was again a bloodbath. I mean, we had the well documented so much to the point that I'm about ready to puke. FTX scandal, of course, with Sam Bankman-Fried, whose face is still plastered all over everything, and he walks around being interviewed by whoever feels like they want to interview him. But yeah, it's weird, talk about that a little bit, Ewok, because you have now experienced a couple of cycles. You have seen the epic amount of blood in the streets. Man, there's got to be a lot of people out there that are hard pressed to say, how could it be any worse than November? Like, we had a major exchange just go totally down. We saw the new lows, and I get it. You're talking about like time frames and percentages that have happened before, but you're also kind of alluding to some of the sentiment because you have seen things just go up in flames before, and it's been
Yeah.
bad. I mean, even myself, who I feel like is knowledgeable
Mhm.
about how these cycles go. I mean, it has been really, really bad.
It
So
has. It has,
yeah,
but I don't think it's been bad enough. And when we say max pain, it really means max pain. You have people saying it's over, it's not going any higher, and you have to reach those type of levels to shake everyone out that doesn't need to be here, um, to make that firm bottom, and then you start out all over.
and when you say like, because there already are people already, and this is again more like legacy media and stuff like that, but people already making fun of people that are in crypto. We're back to that whole thing again.
Yep.
Just
It'll get much worse. It will get
yeah,
much worse. You'll hear it everywhere, not just one or two outlets that are broadcasting it. It's going to be, you'll see it on all the headlines, even on your local news. You'll probably hear it once or twice at that point. So I'm just saying, it doesn't. It's not just your Fox Money show or your CNBC where they're talking about how bad it is. You see it. You start to see it everywhere, and
right.
that is max pain.
Yeah, well, we will keep our eyes peeled for it, but it has been obviously very rough, and obviously the FTX thing is making big time waves. I know Rogan's been mentioning it here on the last couple of podcasts and was talking about it again on the most recent one that I listened to. So the ripple effects of it are definitely out there, and people are realizing how big of a deal this is. Obviously, we'll probably get into this, but we've got BitBoy just scouring through the Bahamas, searching for Sam Bankman-Fried, and all kinds of interesting stuff. So,
Yeah, that's an interesting scenario too. I think, he
yeah,
needs to watch out for himself as far as I'm concerned. He's going to
I
step
think so.
on some toes that I don't think he wants to step on, and
Right.
they may make him disappear. I think he's got enough people around him where that could be maybe a little extreme, but
Oh, he's a big guy too. I mean, let's not forget that. But,
well, he's
um,
he's lost a lot of weight actually.
well, yeah, I just figured he's tall probably too. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Well, while we're mentioning it now, and we're gonna get into the we'll get into the Fed in a minute, but like with the BitBoy thing, okay, because you know what, I'll give him this. It's super interesting content. I mean, it is. But my point, I guess, that I'm gonna get to here is he knows it's interesting content, and I really think that the motivation is more that than it is really getting to the bottom of this.
Sure,
I
there's
mean,
a lot of
it's clearly the theatrics, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of clickbait, not clickbait, but there's a lot of attention seeking, trying to find the audience and giving people what they're interested in. People are pretty fed up with it. I mean, the fact
Hmm.
that, like I said, he's still out there. Um, Now I heard that Texas may have done something to try to extradite him back to the United States,
Yeah,
with
they
some
did file
charges,
something.
but
Yeah, for February. Yeah,
um, he's still
or
listed on some tour dates of some speaking appearances. As far as I know, I don't think they've canceled those yet. They'd be silly not to, not to
he
cancel. But I, what were you gonna say?
he just had one today. Actually, he was just speaking today at some book thing or something like that. So,
Yeah, it
uh,
amazes me how he's getting away with it. But then again, I still think he was partially only a puppet in this grand scheme of things. His
mhm.
his parents are pretty high level, um, financial people with some interesting backgrounds. So it's kind of sad all around. I don't know enough to speak about it. I don't want to disappear myself. So
Well, he's another guy. I mean, we were talking. You were just mentioning how BitBoy might want to watch himself. I think SBF too. Maybe not watch himself because it seems like Maybe the right people are on his side. I'm not sure. But as far as just you may watch how much you're talking, with everything that has gone on so far, you would think you'd want to be a little bit more private with some of your statements. Um, but
Well, that
uh,
and I think he may at this point have enough people after him that lost a quite a bit of money, that they may do some bad things.
mhm.
When you're in that kind of position financially, you don't always think with the best mindset, and who knows? You don't want to wish harm on anybody, but I would hate to say that he doesn't have it coming.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, an interesting development. But at the same time, like I was saying too, you do get sick of it. I get sick of seeing the story out there. I get sick of seeing him out there. And most of us, I would imagine, we're not actually affected by the FTX thing. And I'll probably go on a rant a little bit later about how we need to be a little bit more accountable for ourselves instead of just constantly complaining about Sam Bankman-Fried and the like. But let's talk about this Fed thing a little bit today. So Jerome Powell did speak today. I don't know what this event actually was, but he was there to speak to kind of allude to a little bit of where the Fed may be heading and if they are pivoting in terms of their rate hikes. We've seen 75-point rate hikes the last few FOMC meetings dating back to, man, I guess probably like halfway through last year or this year, technically still.
It
And
started in what, June or July?
that's what I was gonna say.
I think.
I think it was maybe July, but they've
Yeah,
all been 75 since then.
yeah.
And many people have been projecting and thinking that the December one that takes place on the 13th and 14th would be another 75. From everything that Jerome Powell said today, um, it almost seems assured it will not be 75 points this next time around. It's got more people thinking that we'll see something more in the 50 range. And the most interesting thing that he did say was that they are still going to be moving on with rate hikes here, but they have more of a focus on smaller incremental ones because they don't want to do too much damage, of course, and maybe just do them for a bit of a longer period of time while still getting to the ultimate interest rate goal that they had in mind, but by doing it again more gradually and more drawn out, which I would imagine probably gives them some more wiggle room. What do you think about that, Ewok? Because to me, it's like, maybe in the short term, it's kind of good because, obviously you're seeing the bullish sentiment in the market just based off this news today. I'm pretty sure that maybe we'll still see some bullishness with the announcement of 50 points in mid-December, assuming it doesn't get priced in the next couple of weeks already. But what do you think about that? Because to me, that might make me think, and agreeing with something that you said earlier about the January timeline for new lows, possibly, it makes me think that maybe this could just drag a little bit more as far as the crypto market seeing its final,
Well,
bottom.
it could, and I think the rally that you're seeing does have a little bit. We always say it's baked in, but it takes time to do that. So I think that's what you're seeing now. Partially is some of the sentiment from the news of a 50-point rate hike. But yeah, I still think that about 2 months, until it plays out, we get another two of the 50 point rate hikes, and hopefully they seem to pull back and ease up. But I still think there's going to be another event, another fallout. Something's going to happen to cause the dramatic fall down to the levels that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it would make a lot of sense, like just where the Fed is right now. I mean, and we were talking about November being the ultimate low, we thought, for quite some time. And it has been so far, and there was a lot of reasons why. But yeah, to me, it would probably make sense to dip down into that region one more time, maybe even if 14K ends up being the low and not the whole way to 11 or something like that. But yeah, this could trick a lot of people. This again, these were like godlike candles with some of these altcoins the last day or two. So you really want to be careful out there right now. I mean, if you are scaling into the market, I do not get FOMO based on this today, right now. I
Mm-mm.
mean, this is almost certainly going to be retraced tenfold over the next few weeks or a month or so. So maybe we'll get a move up. Maybe we'll even get up into the 18s again towards 19 or something. But I mean, there's just too much bearishness still. There's just too much, we've still been trading below the 200-week moving average for Bitcoin. We're not in a trend reversal even in the slightest yet. So,
No, nope,
um,
not even close.
yeah. So
There,
don't just base it off of this news today. Go ahead, Ewok.
well, no, and I was going to say, even though I had stated I thought Hex probably bottomed out um, a few
We
weeks
both said
ago,
it. Hmm.
and it is pulling back up, but it seems to still be following Bitcoin's movements with the rest of the cycle or the rest of the markets this cycle anyway.
Hmm.
So we'll see how much more movement, but I think if Bitcoin can do, what are we at now? 17,000. I think if it can get down to 11, you could see Hex maybe touch that 2 cent range again, maybe 1.75 cents.
Hmm.
But I think it'll be very, very short lived. Again, that goes back to the credence of setting your limit orders and catching some of those quick ones because they won't last long.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that with Hex, and I want to get into the Hex price specific here a little bit later. But yeah, I could definitely see that. We did see Hex go into a couple of days ago, literally just like 2 days ago, it was a whole like half cent less. I mean, we were below 2.5 cents for
Yep.
Hex, but
Yep.
moving up towards that three number again here as we speak. So we will see what we get there. I wanted to touch on this story real quick. I think you're with me that it probably is a scarier headline than what it really means, as headlines tend to be. But one of my personal favorite exchanges that I have still been using, Kraken, actually announced that they had laid off or fired basically 30% of their workforce today. Um, I saw that from Watch Guru earlier today on Twitter. Now, what do you think that I didn't really read a story on it. I don't know if you did, but I don't think this is indicative of anything at all to do with Kraken having issues as an exchange or anything like that. I just think it's bear market,
Yeah.
news.
I think it's a lot of that. I think it's a lot of the fact that people are finally waking up, starting to listen to people and say, take your money off the exchanges. Well, when that happens, there's not random money sitting on exchanges like there used to be. Therefore, there's less trading. When there's less trading, there's less volume. When there's less volume, there's less income. And to your point, this is, bear market stuff. Volumes go down. They can't justify having all these extra employees when they don't have the money coming in to support them. And I think it's just a natural cutback on their part, which is probably smart. They want to stay on the right side of the books. And as things get back, they will hire all those people back probably, and then some as it proceeds to go back up. But it's just part of the bear market where people just aren't as needed in some of these fields that they used to be. And again, I really think not your keys, not your crypto is playing into this a little bit too.
Hmm.
People are terrified to keep their money on exchanges, rightfully so, and they should be. So I think that's what caused it. I don't think there's any trouble in paradise for them. They're pretty solid. They seem to do things by the book. And I don't think they really even have a lending platform or anything to be concerned about,
Right.
or a token of their own. So, I mean, a lot of problems kind of stem back to that as well, where these exchanges make up their own coin, and then they can kind of, proceed to do shady things with it, borrowing against the value, when you can create as many of them as you want, and value them at a certain amount that helps with your collateral. You can take out some collateralized loans, and yeah, Kraken doesn't have that as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't believe they do. It's always been one of my favorite exchanges. So yeah, I think it's just typical bear market stuff, and it does make sense that because crypto trades in such the volatile way that it does compared to legacy financial markets, that you will see direct crypto companies kind of also have to handle their business in that
Mm,
same volatile manner. I
sure.
mean, you don't hear of a company laying off 30, well, Twitter, I guess, but laying off like more than 30% of their workforce or something like that. And I think it's a sign of the times. It's just crypto. I mean, like we see
Yeah.
wild swings, and people are just not in tune with this market enough yet. I mean, that's why you see Crypto.com and Coinbase, FTX, of course, spend boku bucks last year around Super Bowl. I keep saying last year, it was technically this year, but around Super Bowl time, when things are still actually the market was already going down at that time, but
Yeah,
spending
it
all
was.
this money, and CZ and Binance just hung back, and was more kind of wise to the way these things go. So I just think some of these companies, and I'm not blaming Kraken necessarily, that obviously other places have done much, much worse, but just may not fully be planned for what we see with these prices.
Well, I think Coinbase just had a pretty sizable layoff as well.
Oh, they
So
did, yeah. Yep.
it wasn't but a week or two ago that
Hmm.
they laid off a very similar number. I think that 30,000 rings a bell for them too. So
Hmm.
it's just a sign of the times, and it is what it is. It'll pick back up and get back to normal as we cycle back through.
Right. So, what credence do you give this idea, Ewok? So, in the thumbnail today, I put recession basically as. Um, I have a feeling, and I think that I'm just wondering if nobody's going to say that word, obviously, that's in any kind of power or anything, even though the Fed is its own kind of entity. But I kind of feel like maybe Powell was reading the tea leaves today and just seeing that, we're probably already there and we need to we need to back off these rate hikes as well. I mean, what do you give that? I mean, do you think there's more people that are, at least behind closed doors, or when they look at themselves in the mirror at night, admitting to themselves that like we are probably already at that point, we need to abort this plan or at least shift direction a little bit.
Oh, for sure. They changed the definition of it.
Right.
Um,
Wiki.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, come on. They know what is happening. They're doing it on purpose um, for the betterment of the financial markets, but they know what's happening. So yes, they're all talking about it behind closed doors, and anybody with half a sense of mind also knows it. I think you see the price of everything go up. You see fuel going up. Uh, it, what else would you call it? Like I don't know any other way to define it than a recession. So I
Yeah.
think they would have to admit it to themselves as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've basically got to. I mean, it's basically actions speak louder than words, and the actions of all these parties right now are, as if we are there and we need to start shifting in another direction. So I feel like it's basically an admittal on their part, and I'm interested to see the direction here. So Ewok, you were just when we talked about the Kraken thing there, you said about the, not your keys, not your coins. And I was banging on this last week, and I just can't help. I just can't really get over it, I guess. But I was listening to Richard Hart appeared in another spaces I saw today, just a couple of days ago, talking about. Oh, he was talking to the BitBoy crew as they were in the Bahamas and doing their little break-in thing or whatever they were doing. But Richard was on there with him and just saying again the same stuff that he typically does about trustlessness and not your keys, not your coins, and all this stuff, and people don't understand it. And I just don't know. Somebody on there posed an interesting question, and it interested me. And it's like, when Bitcoin was first around, it seemed like the most of the people that were in it, the few that were, understood kind of the libertarian concept and like the idea of being your own bank and holding your own coins and keys and all this stuff. And it's like all these people came into it, which is good. I mean, it's good that obviously people are using crypto and it's going to grow over the years. But is it's with all these, with the growth and all these people, you're seeing a lot of obviously really bad actors, basically all the legacy finance people come in and try to create something that isn't crypto, trick everybody that it is crypto so they can extract your money from you.
Mhm.
And it's just like when will we see a return to what it really is? Like, well, because people are so used to this legacy finance and trusting somebody else and not really caring about, never even thinking about like protecting a seed phrase or something like that. Um, when will we get people that actually understand crypto using a crypto? And I mean, I understand there's probably thousands, if not millions, that are, but these big corporations are all, legacy finance people. So when do you think we'll start to get an influx of people that actually understand what this is?
Well, I mean, y- you're as you're brought up, you're kind of brainwashed into trusting people to hold your money.
Mhm.
It's part of, it's part of the culture of growing up and creating a savings account and putting your money in the bank. And you know until people lose enough money, um, I think that's what it really takes for people to understand the risks of some of these platforms, and like you said, the financial sector trying to come into crypto. That's not why it was created. It was
Mhm.
created so that you can be your own bank. And I think it just takes a lot of education. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of education, and a lot of people losing their money until they realize that that's what this is here for, is to so that you can control your own finances and not rely on another person. I just don't understand how many people don't get it, because the banks are constantly charging you all these fees, all this extra charges that you just really shouldn't be paying,
Mhm.
especially when you can do it yourself, and eliminate that completely. Maybe people don't trust themselves. I'm not sure the method of the madness behind it, but it's just a lot of education is what it's going to take, unfortunately, and a lot of people losing money.
I think it might begin with the fact that people, I mean, let's face it, most people that we know, not anybody that would be listening to this stream or anything, but most people that you know in your real life are really just clueless about even, legacy finance. I mean, they don't even know how to handle their own money. Most people are severely in debt and
Right.
just kind of a product of like wherever the government blows them that day. So I guess that's what it is. It's just that as much as we or the Richard Harts of the world, or the people that understand DeFi and understand actual crypto, as much as you
Wait,
can feel.
wait, did you say the government's blowing people? Because I haven't gotten a blowy from them. I don't know.
No, not I haven't gotten any kind of handout like that yet anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, the just the way that all of us are saying this stuff till you're blue in the face, and it's like, I guess you just continue to, and just remember that like this is still such a new market, and so many new people are going to be coming into this that like they have to understand what crypto is and how to use it, and even though it's basics all the time, we just had this FTX thing happen, and I'm so sick of it. Like I just saw, I won't mention the name, but somebody that I don't think he meant anything malicious by it, but somebody that I really respect on Twitter the other day that's in crypto talking about like Sam Bankman-Fried being held accountable and all this. And I'm like, I just get so sick of that. I mean, like, yeah, he should be held accountable and everything, but when do we hold ourselves accountable? Like, when is it your dumb fault for leaving all this money on exchanges, whether you're trading or holding it there, trying to earn yield on there or something? Like, it's your fault, And once you
Yeah.
take ownership of it, the reason I say that is because then you can actually move past it, learn, and never make the mistake again. You have to take ownership of it. I'm just not seeing
Yeah.
enough of that.
Nope, me neither. And I agree with crypto world here. How many of your friends, if you ask them, could set up their own wallet and control their seed phrase?
Yeah.
And until you have two handfuls of friends that know that, we're such a long ways away.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. And the sad thing is too, like people within our demographic, you would feel like they would have interest in it. I mean, it's not a secret that most people in crypto are guys, obviously at this point, but
Right.
men ages 20 to 60 should, I would think, take pretty well to this and understand how to do it. Yeah, and yeah, I guess we should consider it a mission to like get them to understand how to do it the right way. The unfortunate thing is, as well as I do, Ewok. I mean, like I have friends right now that could down the road be interested in crypto and come to the crypto space, but whatever it is, the volatility of the market or people scaring them or the things they see on legacy media, or maybe their life is just, they don't want to dabble in that at this time. They're just not there yet. And they're going to
Right.
come to the market when we're back to all-time highs again.
Of course they
And,
will. And then
you know,
they'll get shaken out because they bought at the high, and instead of buying now when everyone's saying, guys, now's the time to make life-changing gains. um it's scary. It's a
mhm.
hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to pull the trigger right now, especially when the world is burning around us with all these things. But there is a right way to do it, and again, it goes back to educating people, Um, I, you know, taking the time to show some people goes a long way. And then when they can show people, and then they can show, it's a network effect. It'll eventually happen. It's hard to get people in right now. And like you said, they won't get in until things are on their way back up, and they've already missed a lot of the gains that they could have made.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you and I, anybody listening or watching to the stream right now, you are where you need to be. I mean, if you're paying attention to this market and that addicted to it whenever we are here right now, um, I think we're all probably going to make it. So just keep paying attention and, know what's going on in this space. And speaking of that, this is one of the main topics you and I have been going back and forth with for about a week, because it was about a week ago that we found out that one of the maybe the most popular hot wallet that there is available right now, Ethereum wallet that people use, MetaMask. I can't think of one that's probably more popular than that. It was uncovered a week ago that basically people's IP addresses and what they've been doing, what they've been browsing, some of the data is being collected by MetaMask, which was kind of a big discovery. Um, I know you know a little bit more about I do as far as everything dealing with this Ewok, but is it something that we should be massively concerned about? What is your impression of what it is they are able to actually track? And what could an alternative actually be? I mean, are we ditching MetaMask entirely, which would definitely not be fun to have to do? But what's your take on all this?
So I don't believe that it's actually MetaMask. It is the Infura,
Hmm,
which is the node that we all connect to through MetaMask. Okay, that's the one when you sign up for MetaMask and it connects to the Ethereum network. You're using the Infura node to
right,
basically communicate between the blockchains and into Ethereum's network. The easiest thing to do is to switch the network that you're communicating through, because yes, they are, gathering IP addresses. Um, the easiest thing to do is use a VPN, and
right,
that should take care of it. But if you've already used it and you've already got a Coinbase account and you've already done some transactions, they already know who you are. It's just a matter of trying to remain as private as possible. Now, there are some, I can share this. I want to share this.
the RPC thing.
Yeah. So there was a guy the other day, OXNGMI is his Twitter handle.
The wallet address there.
Yeah. So these are the mainnet RPCs for Ethereum. And as you can
Right.
see, all the green means that they're reliable. And then you go over here to this column, which is your privacy. Anything that is yellow is potentially, um, there's not enough information out there in the README files about it, to say whether they collect the IP addresses or not. The ones that are red definitely do collect them. And as far as I know, these ones that are green, there's only two of them.
Right.
Um, they actually state that they do not collect any information as far as IP addresses go. So the combination of a VPN and switching to one of these nodes is probably the safest way to go. Now they do have a little bit of latency the further down the list you go, which just means it's a little bit slower.
Mhm.
I don't think you're gonna notice 0.27, what it
Right.
0.27 seconds,
Right.
um, or for that matter, a second longer for this one. Now, this one's green, but your score is yellow. So there's a little issue here. So it looks to me like this is the node real is really one of the only ones that is sustainable with the speed and everything else. So if
Yeah. And the
do a little
privacy.
research, look into it on your own. But this is out here, and I can probably share. I'm going to
Yeah. If
share
you
the
copy that link, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to share the Twitter link for you guys and put it into the chat here.
And I know we've
Um,
heard people, we've heard, well, actually, Flashbots was one that I've heard people talking about, but it actually apparently, according to this, it does share, or does
yeah,
collect data.
yep, they
Anchor,
do.
I heard somebody talk about as well. So, um,
Yeah, there's been a couple. Flashbots was one that I believe K K for K was talking about, and then someone came out and said, "Hey, by the way, they do as well."
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, and then that's when this came out. So this is a good Twitter thread to look over and take a look at. We're not going to get into how to change the RPC, but if you've done anything with the Pulse Chain testnet, you
hmm
should already know how to change that setting. It's a
yeah,
matter of just going in and doing a custom RPC with the right server address. The block explorer stays the same. You don't need to change that, and you don't need to change the chain um, name, but maybe the ID. I'm not sure. So look into it
it's
a
pretty
little bit
basic.
more. Yeah, it's pretty very basic to just change your Ethereum mainnet. And keep in mind, you want to do it with if you're using your phone as well, there are settings in your mobile device as well, whether you use Coinbase wallet or MetaMask for your phone. You can change both of those in there as well. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, definitely a valuable thing to do. And I know people don't want to ditch using MetaMask or anything. I mean, it's again one of the most popular wallets, easy to use. And so many sites, obviously are compatible with it and connect to it very easily. So, do your due diligence. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know how much risk there actually is here in terms of, actually protecting your coins. I don't think there's much of an issue with that or anything. But it always is good practice. And I know you and I both practice this Ewok, but obviously I think it's always a good idea to have your stuff just spread around in a lot of places.
Well,
Uh,
down the road, it could matter. When things go to a CBDC and IP addresses become important
mhm.
for what you can and cannot transact with, you're going to be on a list, and most of us probably already are.
Yeah,
Um,
right,
like I said, if you've done anything through Coinbase, which is a AML KYC company, anti-money laundering and know your customer, they already know who we are. And if you
right.
haven't been using a VPN, then again, your information is already out there.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of how much you really transact with it. So be careful, like you said, do your due diligence and make the right decision for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely stuff to be aware of for sure, especially right now. I mean, like security and things like that are things that you always want to be taking into account. But there's all these reminders again with the world burning around us here in crypto right now. It's good to remember these best practices and make sure all your ducks are in a row there. So, let's get into some Hex DeFi stuff into this portion of our podcast. So, Ewok, yeah, you were talking earlier. You and I both, the last few weeks, had been saying that we felt like the hex bottom was in back whenever it was just I mean, it consistently had only ever gone to the high 2 cents before. There was apparently a wick down below 2 cents one time, very, very quickly, that you can see in the chart. But I didn't really think we were going to go below 3 cents again. It seemed like Hex was on a decent uptrend. But we were wrong about that because it went pretty deep into the twos consistently for a few days.
Yeah.
Um, Last week into this week. So yeah, what do you think? You were alluding to it earlier, but I mean, with the different scenarios that we think may happen with Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market, your main scenario, in your opinion, being that we could see new lows by January, down into that maybe at the worst 11K ish range. What would you see as the worst case scenario or the lowest that maybe we could see Hex go in that time frame?
Well, even back to your Bitcoin statement,
Hmm.
we listen to what Richard says a lot because, until he's been wrong, which he hasn't been very often, his 11K in pray really means I hope it stops there.
Right.
He thinks it could go even lower than 11K. And, if the right circumstances happen where a lot of shorts or a lot of longs get liquidated, it, like I said before, it could cause a nice little cascade and be on a runaway freight train. Who knows where it'll stop? There will be buy pressure, obviously, to help pull it, back up a little bit. But I think that's possible. Now, as I said earlier, I think the bottom for Hex, it depends. Depends on how much FUD there is, and that's why I think what we saw the last couple days has been a product of that. There's still FUD everywhere. We've been dealing with it since Hex launched. So,
Mhm.
um, but like I said, when you know what it is and you know that it's immutable code, there's not a whole lot that FUD can really deter, other than the support of the community. So, I think again that level of maybe 1.5 cents could be the very bottom if Bitcoin decides to go back down, and drags everything with it. But the beauty of Hex is that it's not really tied to the Bitcoin price. So there is a decorrelation in that sense, where the majority of it is tied to Ethereum. Now, Bitcoin can drag Ethereum down, which can in turn drag Hex down a little bit.
Mhm.
But with the majority of our liquidity being in USDC, it definitely helps. So it doesn't
Right.
shield it completely, but it can, help it along the way kind of travel in tandem. So
Yeah.
I think that's about where our bottom would be again, which we've tested already very quickly. Like I said, if it goes back down to that level, I know there are massive orders set to buy it right back up, and I don't think it'll last very long.
Yeah. Yeah, 2.4 cents I think was kind of the low that we saw here in the last few days.
Yeah,
And it seemed to bounce off that pretty good. It would make sense that about 2.5 cents is a pretty key number, I think. So
yeah,
definitely an area to watch there as well. I scooped some up right around that area as well.
yeah. You
But
want to watch the support levels of where it's bouncing at, and
mhm,
if it holds there, then it may bounce a couple times. Now, if it bounces too many times, it could break through that. So
right.
that's what you
Yeah.
really want to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, we've really only seen it consistently be there for a couple of days once here, in this market. So,
Right.
um, I'm really a fan, and I know, I mean, Ewok, you have been listening to Richard Hart now for a number of years, even prior to Hex being released. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
really am a fan of just how he has. Um, I've said it before. Twitter Spaces Richard Hart is the best Richard Hart, like bar none. Just
yeah,
I think it's
I
because of
agree.
how much he can expand on things, and the fact that there are other dissenting opinions in the room, and people that default to him. But like right now in this bear market with, again, as you keep saying, like the world burning around us and FTX and all this crap and people really waking up to these suits and legacy finance coming in to ruin crypto, a guy like Richard Hart screaming from the rooftops the same stuff he has been saying for years, but just the bombastic nature of him, the outrage marketing and all that stuff, he's now starting to get more credibility with people that I don't think would have given him credibility before.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Yes.
because they're seeing this stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely helping. Um, he's reaching an audience that may not have listened to him before. And it does have to, it sucks that he has to say, I told you guys, if you would just listen to me. And there's always the butthurt people out there that are being like, Richard, you need to be more sensitive to the people that have lost money. And he's like, no, fuck you. You should have
Yeah.
listened to me.
Mhm.
I'm trying to be as sensitive, but nobody listens when I'm sensitive. I have to be
Right.
brash. I have to be real. And for you guys to pay attention and listen, that's what works. And it's true. Just like
Mhm.
the outrage marketing that he does dressing up like a clown.
Yeah.
He doesn't enjoy doing that, but it works. It gets people's attention. It gets eyes on him. And then he can bring him into the financial stuff that he's created. Then they listen because they're like, who's this guy? you know, it
Yeah.
works. It really does work. But
It
you're
does.
right.
Yeah.
The most real Richard that we've seen, without the clown suits, because you can't see that, right? You don't
Right.
see
Yeah.
any of that. You only hear him, and he's just so educated and so eloquently spoken about so many different topics. He really knows his stuff on just about everything. Anything that people are talking about anyway, he's either done research or he has a photographic memory, just because he just remembers and can spout that stuff off like it's just that's what he does. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's
And
definitely catching the attention of a lot of people, which is good because all these people are already in crypto. Most of the people that are
Mhm,
listening are already there, so it's a very easy onboarding to the Hex community type thing.
mhm.
When you can grab the people from crypto Twitter, they're there, and most of them already know what seed words are. They already know what MetaMask is. They already know what Uniswap is. So, hopefully we can save some people and and get them onboarded into something that does not involve middlemen.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, he himself, I don't think, I'm sure he drives some joy out of it, but it doesn't, he even calls it like the clown outfits and stuff like that too. Like he clearly is doing
Mhm.
it primarily to get attention. And you are
Sure.
right, it does work. He even criticizes it himself and says that it sucks that I have to do it this way and I don't want to do it this way and everything. Um, and it is, I mean, it is free marketing. I mean, I just saw somebody the other day who, is more of a traditional crypto person retweeting it and making fun of him and stuff like that. And it's like, well, thank you, I guess. It's just like the more the awareness is out there and then you actually hear him speak, there is that barrier. Like people don't want to listen to him and assume everything that he says is trash because of the way he acts and stuff like that. And I don't want to compare him to like Trump or something like that, or one of these like bombastic figures. Cause actually I think his knowledge of crypto rivals Trump's knowledge of anything, I think for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Um, and it's just, it's really, that's the thing. You have that barrier based on his personality, but when you hear him in these spaces and stuff like that, he's just laying it down. I mean, like
Yeah.
he knows exactly what is going on. You're right; he is really eloquent, and that would sound funny. Like I'm a cynical person, and there may have been a time and place where I would have watched you and I talking about this, and just rolled my eyes, like so many people are, and just said, like, you're talking about the dude that wears like you know, these checkered shorts and looks like a dork and everything like that, and is bragging about his PP size and everything. It's like, yeah, I mean, like, believe it or not, people can do that, but also be wildly educated and
Yeah.
know what they're talking about in this space.
Well, and I think people tend to forget that he is Mensa. I mean, his IQ
Yeah.
is off the charts. He went to the school for the gifted while he was growing up. So, I mean, all of that stuff that people don't really know about Richard, they only hear a couple people say, "Well, he was the spam king, right? He's a scammer." And that's because they're hearing that at other places, and you've got to listen to them. Once you hear them and listen to them, your mindset changes. It really does, and it's up to you to open your ears and just listen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. More spaces, Richard. We definitely do love that version. So
Yeah,
um we probably don't have time to get way too much into necessarily a pulse chain update. I mean, I don't think there's really much to update.
nothing. Your pulse chain update is it'll be out when it's ready. There's your update.
Yeah, yeah,
No.
that's basically it. But
Hmm.
as we have been saying, but I really wanted to answer this question. I was highly intrigued by this. So near vulgar, one of our well, his Twitter handles actually in heart we trust one, I just realized. But he floated a question to us specifically about the hex smart contract and how the shares or T shares within the hex smart contract works. And that's for anybody that doesn't know, I'm gonna default to Ewok here, but T shares are really the engine of Hex. Like what you really want to accrue, you want to accrue Hex, but you really want to accrue T shares because the
Right.
more T shares you accrue, the more Hex you can accrue in your Hex stakes over the time that you have it staked. So I'm going to read his question and I'm going to let you go ahead, Ewok. So he asks, would you be so kind to elaborate on the true value of T shares aside the obvious delayed gratification and yield? It's mentioned a lot by Hex OGs, but I've never got the details to really comprehend this. Much appreciated. Looking forward to the new episode. So go ahead, Ewok. I'll let you kind of in full explain the T share system with Hex.
Sure. So it all starts obviously with Hex. Hex as the liquid coin doesn't do anything other than any other ERC20 token. The beauty of Hex is the T share. Now, when you stake your Hex, You lock it up for a predetermined amount of time. And when you do that, you are awarded back what they call shares. Okay. Currently, it's T shares, but as time goes on, it will be B shares or M shares. T stands for trillion. And that's just a part of the pie that you own when you lock your coins up. So when you stake, if you go to the go.hex.com platform and connect your wallet, you can see how many T shares you'll be awarded when you make a stake based on how long and how many. Um, when you create your stake, your hex are actually burnt. Okay, they no longer exist in the system, and you are given back what they call shares. The shares represent the, like I said, it's the, look at it as a piece of pie, and however many shares that you have contribute to the daily rewards of the inflation, um, yielded back to you on a daily basis at the turn of the day, which is for us, it's 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The new day, you're awarded however many hex per T share. So let's make it easy. If you have 10 T shares, um, which would take probably about 85,000 right now for the full 10 years to get 10 T shares. Um, every day you would get whatever hex per T share. So if we're averaging 6 hex per T share, you're going to get about 60 hex per day, the
Yeah.
days you have it locked up. Okay. When you reach the end of the term with the shares, the shares expire on the last day. You then cancel out your shares by ending your stake. When you end your stake, the shares go away. All the inflation that should have been minted throughout the days are minted again back into the hex, and that's the end of your stake. And so it's your principal and all of the yield that you would have earned throughout the course of however long you said that you were going to lock it up for. Um, I think that's about as brief as I can make it for explaining for what the shares are. But what you need to know is the share rate only goes up. So every day that somebody ends a stake, um, there's a calculation that is done that says, did this person yield more than they did the last time? Or was this the highest yielding um, rate at this point of the contract that's been running? If it hasn't been, then the share rate inflates a little bit more each day to make sure that people can't game the system, right?
Right.
So when you look at it as okay, what if I do 10,000 hex once a year, every year for 10 years? Or what if I do 10,000 hex for just 10 years? That 10-year stake, the longer pays better, will always outperform the shorter stakes because that rate goes up each and every day.
Hmm.
So every day that it's going to take you more and more hex to get the same amount of T shares. So it's harder and harder to get into that position that you would have gotten at and that you actually locked up for those 10 years. Um, as as the 10 years go on, there's almost a simulated compounding effect as well, because people that are ending stakes in between that period of time are ending their stakes. Therefore, your percentage of the piece of pie grows a little bit exponentially as those stakes end of other people. So that's
Hmm.
why, you see all these hexagons say, I staked out 5, 5, 5, 5, 15 years, um, because that locks in that rate for that much longer. Now,
Right.
obviously, there are going to be people that do the ladders, and for your ladders, it's not going to work out that way. But you can always catch, the longer ones first. If you put those in first and work your way back, you're making a better decision to capture that share rate while it's lower and you're getting more for it for a lot longer of a time. Um,
Mhm.
and then the shorter ones don't matter as much. And then as you grow in time, those ones are the ones that will, what we say delayed gratification. Those are going to be the ones that really pay off, in the future.
Right.
So I hope that kind of did I hit everything? Did I miss
I think you
anything?
did. I think you did, and I will say, there's plenty of good hex stake calculators available. If you don't want to just link right up to the website with your MetaMask and just start punching stuff in on hex.com, which you totally can, and it'll show you, what what your stakes would give you in terms of T shares, in terms of hex and stuff like that. But
There's
yeah,
a
once you
really
really
there's a
go ahead.
really good one that is probably my favorite, and I believe it's called stakehex.today.
Yeah, I just saw that here when I was Google searching.
That is probably one of the best out there that will project. You can set your price of hex. You can see how many T shares that you actually have now. And it's pretty cool to play around with some of these numbers. But then also, there is a calculator that can tell you how much to stake if you want to earn a certain amount or whatever it is at the current rates. Now, again, we don't have a crystal ball, so we have
Yeah.
no idea what the future price of hex will be. However, we do know that you will always get paid in hex on a daily basis, and that is
Mhm.
truly um, the the miracle that we call hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield, and nothing will stop that contract from running. Now, the price of hex could get down to zero, but it will still operate. The beauty of it is people seeing the value of the system and using it for what it's intended to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the smart contract. I mean, you're always going to get paid in that hex no matter what. And
Yep.
once you do understand this and once you do start doing those little stake calculations, you can see the temptation to like just throw a bunch of 5 out there and just do 15-year stakes because you see like the exponential power of the smart contract. But we this is a whole other episode and we don't have time to do it right now. But that's why it is encouraged by many people to do some kind of a staking ladder because it's already happened to people that are in Hex right now where if you did only do those long-term stakes and Hex has already 10,000 x'd at one point, if your whole bag was staked out for 15 years, you would like to be able to take advantage of that, whether it is just getting that stake to end and get your principal back, or maybe
Mhm.
have some liquid hex, which I'm a fan of. I know you are more staked out Ewok, but
Yeah.
it's a good strategy, even though, yes, in a vacuum, it would appear that the right decision would just be like, oh, okay, all 15-year stakes. But
Well,
hey, it's all up to the investor.
but it also plays into part of why Hedron was created, why
Mhm.
Maxi was created, and the Maximus tokens are all different years. You can cash in on some of that liquidity without locking up. Now, the beauty of the smart contract and doing what you say you're doing is you're protecting you from yourself. A lot of people that bought Bitcoin at under $1 kicked themselves when they sold it at 30. And then the next time it ran up to 180, and then the next time it went up to 3,000. So, the idea of the smart contract is the delayed gratification. You're protecting yourself from your future self. You can't sell it without hurting yourself, and the penalties that you incur, we should talk about that real quick too. If you don't fulfill your
Mhm.
stake at least halfway, um, you will be penalized more than your principal. So for a 15-year stake, you have to serve at least 7.5 years just to get your principal back. So keep that in
Right.
mind. Don't just set things out and then say, crap, in a year, I need my money, because it will be gone if you try to emergency end stake. That is super important, to do what you essentially say you're going to do and follow
Yeah.
through.
And that's what it is. And that's why I'm a fan personally of having liquid hex because I want to have that flexibility. You're right about Hedron, obviously, which is why I also love Hedron. But yeah, it's just know the smart contract. It's the same thing, back when we talked about Zen or, any whatever the smart contract or the DeFi protocol is, obviously you would prefer Hex. But if you know the contract, then you won't do stuff that isn't optimal against the contract, like just set everything out for 5 stakes with money you can't afford, for example.
Yeah.
So just know it. Obviously, read over it, know it very well. I mean, Ewok, you even said yourself, as much as you were educated on Richard Hart's values and Hex and stuff like that, you even regretted like some of the mistakes that you made early on, and realized
Yeah.
later on what you probably should have done instead, right?
Well, yeah, the biggest mistake I made was way too many
Yeah,
for way too small amounts. Not realizing what the gas prices would be. That's what got me more
right.
than anything. I spent a ton of money in gas fees because at the height of the bull market, you know, it was costing $1,200 or $1,400 to end a stake that was started within the first couple weeks. Crazy.
Yeah,
So, you know, yes, they were worth substantially more. I would have never ended them if they weren't. And some of them that weren't, there were a couple that were only 1,000 hacks. And at that point, they were worth what it costs to undo it. So, um, yeah, that was some of the mistakes that I made early on, but I've since gotten the ladders figured out, and it took a little bit of time, but I got them where I wanted them, and now we're good to go.
yep. Yeah, just anytime you get into a product like this, just make sure you fully understand it so you can really optimize it for yourself. But I think that about covers it for this episode. We covered a lot tonight. We're going to have an interesting direction here over the next few weeks about the Fed and where they decide to go. It seems like they're backing off, making me think that maybe we'll see a little bit more pump or sustained slightly elevated prices here the next couple of weeks. And then maybe that Christmas to New Year's dump back down again. Safe to say, I mean, if we would go down through the newly created low of about 15.4K for Bitcoin by January, I personally would feel like this is where I really want to start allocating some funds here for the long haul. But Ewok, any final thoughts from you?
I think I've talked enough.
Cool. Yes, you did. Yeah, you
Yeah,
did. You did, and it was all very worthwhile. So, yeah, I very much appreciate the T-shirt thing is definitely really good to understand, and people need to
yeah,
have an in-depth understanding of that. So, I hope that Near Vulgar was a fan of that. I'm sure he was as a fan of the show. I'll leave everybody with this tonight. I just sent this to you on Twitter, Ewok. Kevin O'Leary. This is a real tweet. AKA Mr. Wonderful. He says, I lost millions as an investor in FTX and got sandblasted as a paid spokesperson for the firm. But after listening to that interview, meaning the one from Sam Bankman-Fried earlier today, I'm in the Bill Ackman camp about the kid. He quote tweeted Bill Ackman, who said, call me crazy, but I think SBF is telling the truth. So Kevin O'Leary doubling down on his faith in Sam Bankman-Fried, and this tweet has been ratioed to hell. Not really sure what's going on here, but hey, man's entitled to his opinion, I guess. Pretty interesting stuff. Not
yeah. I
sure what
don't
to make of
know.
that.
I think Kevin O'Leary's digging himself a hole that, a lot of these investors that put so much money into things kind of need to cover their ass so they don't look stupid on the rest of their investments.
Good
And,
point.
and
Yeah.
maybe that's what he's doing, is just trying to save a little face. I'm not sure, but I'm still in the SBF should be in jail camp,
Hmm.
um, as well as a lot of the other people. Gary Gensler should be there. There's a lot of people that have done some shady shit, including some politicians that should be called out. Now, as well as I know, a lot of this stuff's going to get swept under the rug, and
Yeah.
nothing's ever going to come of it because of what we were talking about earlier, that those blowies from the government. um,
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody's getting rubbed under the table, and
Yeah.
it'll be forgotten, and unfortunately that's the world we live in. But hopefully there are some people that are able to fund some things, and to get some politicians on our side. As far as crypto goes, it's just part of the game we got to play.
Right.
And unfortunately that's all part of it.
Yeah. Yep, you are correct about that. Well, we are definitely seeing who is swimming without trunks on here in this bear market. We'll probably see some more over the next few weeks and months. It has been a fun one. So thank you all for tuning in. You can find me on YouTube. I'm Broke Boy Crypto, and Ewok is at Crypto Ewok everywhere as well. So we will be back next Wednesday, same time, same channel for the Creative Crypto podcast. So give us a follow. We are at Creative Crypto also on Twitter. And other than that, we will catch you guys next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast.